Great message, a great story as well. Our big stat is presented by Gatorade. I mentioned Troy Smith in 2006, the last Big Ten winner. Mendoza just the sixth from the Big Ten to capture the award in the last 50 years. A great run in the 90s the conference did, but not much since then. Troy Smith, the only other full-time QB from the Big Ten to win the award. A couple of the winners in the 40s played some quarterback, but were listed as halfbacks. Mendoza afterward with Yogi Roth.
Fernando, you are holding, your hand is on the Heisman Trophy. I'm curious, on your way to Bloomington, did you imagine that hoisting this very trophy was even a possibility?
There's so many good players in college football, and it's always revolving. However, I knew that when I went to Bloomington, I was going to get developed by a great coaching staff, and I was going to have fantastic teammates. And this award is a team award. And Indiana's 13-0, Big Ten champs, and that's why I believe I got this award. I don't even know if I'm deserving of this. You know, shout out to all other finalists, their families, and everybody else in college football. However, this is a dream come true. At the beginning of the year, after spring ball, I wrote in a little note card, and I haven't told anybody this. I said, hey, I will be in New York. Myself, honestly, at that point thinking, hey, maybe fourth, maybe third, who knows? But to be, proclaimed the winner and to enjoy this prestigious fraternity, it means the world to me, and I know it means even more to my teammates, my coaches, and to my family, and that's who I do it for.
You were rubbing shoulders with the greats in this game, icons in this game. Next time you go on that stage, your face will be alongside those as winners of this award. Can you even imagine that?
I can't even imagine that. I really, truly don't. I mean, those guys are insane. They're legends. And to even be mentioned in the same sentence, paragraph as them I don't even know what I'm doing right now. I'm having like a word vomit right now. I think that really describes my emotion, because being described next to those guys, being even in the same conversation as those guys, is a huge honor and something that I've worked my entire life towards. And I just can't wait to get advice from those guys.
He is a great player, but he's also so eminently likable, which would also speak to Rhett Lewis, who joins us now. Rhett, former Hoosier player, obviously, as well as a Big Ten Network analyst. What has stood out to you as you've watched Mendoza through this season up to and including Saturday night?
I think a few of the same things that stand out about Curt Cignetti's rise here at Indiana as well. One is belief, right? Belief in the blueprint. You heard that from Fernando. He had a belief in himself and wanted to write that on that note card. That was a great question and a great interaction there with my pal Yogi Roth. And, hearing him say that was one of his goals, and then going out there and developing himself. And he talked about getting developed by quarterbacks coach Chandler Whitmer, offensive coordinator Mike Shanahan, and obviously from Curt Cignetti, who's got great success with quarterbacks as well. I think just speaks to the work ethic that you hear from Coach Sig talking about Fernando, and then speaks to the expertise of this scheme, of this team, and really of this whole kind of network around Fernando. He got better every week, and that was one of the biggest things that stuck out to me. Is this was not a guy who was a finished product in week one. The more he played in this system, the better he got. And he was able to kind of let loose those talents. I thought you said it great when you tossed that soundbite, Dave. Total class, his usual class. Yeah. Well, he is certainly a class act. He is the class of college football. And Dave, he will be at the top of the class when it comes to the NFL draft in a couple of months. But a lot of work to do until then.
No, it's pretty amazing, though. I mean, he was 7th in the ACC in passing efficiency last year. So I know that NFL people were drooling over him, and kind of the reputation that he had, and the scouting report coming in was, hey, this is a guy who has all the physical tools, who can make every throw, but they hadn't tapped into all of that. And part of it was the offensive line, honestly, at Cal wasn't very good last year, but part of it, to your point, was getting really great coaching and being surrounded by other good pieces, and that was what happened this year, and the result, again, is the best player in college football. I mentioned that you played at IU, kind of bigger pictures. We zoom out, and you and I were joking before the show, just another Sunday night where you turn on, sit there after the NFL games, and you got Hoosier football on 60 Minutes. I mean, it's just amazing what a story this has become. Yeah. Rat, like, what has this year meant for Indiana football?
So much. I mean, I've had some. I talked about that with you and Jerry, up on the set before the Big Ten championship game. Just the fact that I won 16 games in 5 years and they're well on their way to winning 16 this year just tells you a little bit about how far this place has come. But I think it's what happens when you find a coach that has a belief in his blueprint and is committed to developing young men into really, really good football players. And the best part about this is it's no longer just a good story. This is a really good football team. Yeah. Obviously, it's the best in college football according to the College Football Playoff Committee, and the #1 seed. And the other thing that gives me great satisfaction about this, Dave, is that they're going to be playing in the Rose Bowl. And the last time they played in the Rose Bowl, for the Rose Bowl, my dad was a student trainer on the team in 1968. So, again, it's been a while. It's been a long time coming. Scott Dolson and Pam Whitten deserve an immense amount of credit for committing the resources to this team, as you kind of heard in that 60 Minutes piece, that allowed Coach Cignetti to come in here and do what he needed to do to instill his blueprint, which, as you heard, had won at every level.
Yeah, that's what's amazing. You can devote the resources but not have the right people. I mean, it's kind of the combination. And to your point, you can't win in this day and age without devoting the resources. I mean, that's step one. But the identification of Curt Cignetti as the right candidate when I don't think he would have been the obvious choice, and we've talked a lot about the spreadsheet that Scott put together and all the characteristics that he identified that led him to Curt Cignetti. So as you mentioned, not just a great story anymore, but a great team, #1 seed in the CFP, headed to the Rose Bowl. I mean, all that is historic. But when you're the #1 seed, you want to stick around for a while and end up as the national champ. So as you assess this team, what do you see as the biggest keys to making a deep run here?
Well, obviously having the quarterback playing at a high level right now is probably point #1 on that task list, and you can certainly check that off with Fernando. He is playing really good football right now. He's seeing the field really well. He's making good decisions with the football, and that back shoulder to Elijah Surratt, the deep ball to Becker. They've got that thing rolling. And in the run game, to be able to find those tough yards and stay committed to it against a really good team in Ohio State, I think proves that they can win in a variety of ways. And that is something you can take with you on this journey throughout the college football playoff. Now, on the flip side, the defense obviously has some challenges, right? With Stephen Daly likely being out here moving forward. He was their best defensive lineman over the course of the last 8 weeks. So finding ways to compensate for that loss, is something that they'll have to figure out. But got the man for the job, and defensive coordinator Bryant Haynes, who I believe to be the best in the country, and I think the Broyles Award will tell us that here shortly. So they've got to sit back and watch Alabama and Oklahoma play this weekend and see where that goes. But I imagine they'll have a game plan on both sides of the ball and on special teams, which often goes overlooked, but it's been a real strength for IU as well to have them ready to compete in the Rose Bowl.
Well, Rhett, this is exactly the scenario that I think all of us envision in college football, which is Alabama and Oklahoma playing for the right to face Indiana. That's the way it should be. Good stuff, man. Thank you so much. Enjoy the journey.
Pleasure. Thanks, Dave.
Well, Mendoza, not the only Big Ten award winner, and the Heisman, not his only award. He won the Davy O'Brien as the nation's best quarterback, also the Maxwell and Walter Camp. Those are given to the top overall player, much as the Heisman is. His coach, Curt Cignetti, who we're talking about, winning multiple Coach of the Year awards. Caleb Downs named the nation's top defensive back. Logan Jones, the top center, and Mekhi Lemon, the top wide receiver. A lot of positives for Nebraska football this year. Remember, we're talking about a program that had the longest power conference bowl drought coming into last season. Now they've made 2 in a row. They'll play Utah in the Las Vegas Bowl on New Year's Eve day, looking for their second straight postseason win. Crack the rankings again for the second straight season as well. So the arrow's certainly pointing up on the Huskers, which gets us to our big interview as promised. It is head coach Matt Rhule, fresh off the practice field. Coach, I want to ask you about that first. We always hear about one of the big things about going to a bowl is, hey, you get those 15 extra practices. You just finished one of them. Tell us about the time allocation. Like, how much time are you spending on yourselves and on developing younger players versus when do you turn your attention to Utah? How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been it's vital time. And, last week, this week, we practice 3 days a week. We lift and meet 3 days a week. give them a day off. And right now, it's just really all about development. We know all the things we do or we're doing right now will apply in the bowl game, but we haven't turned our attention completely to Utah until probably this Friday. So there's a lot of young players out there. We're one of the youngest teams in the league, and this is a great opportunity for us just to get better and get ourselves some positive momentum heading into next season.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the game once you turn your focus to the Utes. This is a challenging game. It's a really good team, one that was on the periphery of the college football playoff conversation for much of this year. And then I think you add in the element of Kyle Whittingham, who's been there for such a long time, more than 2 decades, stepping down, retiring. This is his last game. So you guys know you're going to have a challenge on your hands. As you look to Utah, what are the biggest things you'll need to do to come out with a win?
Well, they have a dynamic offense. The right tackle Fernando, he just won the Outland Award. Quarterbacks are deadly. They score points on everyone, and so defensively it'll be a real challenge for us. Offensively, they take the ball away, they intercept balls, they play great man coverage, and Morgan Scalley will be the next head coach, is a great defensive coordinator. So we're excited about it, though. I mean, we play in the Big Ten. We play great teams every week. We're proud to represent the Big Ten in the Las Vegas Bowl, and we're going to just try to play Big Ten football. And we have to stop the run. We're going to have to be able to run the football. But we know the teams that we face week in and week out. We'll be prepared for it.
I know the bowl result could alter this somewhat. If you finish with a win, maybe you look at the season differently. But kind of to where you are right now, put this season in perspective. How does it compare to your expectations, your hopes, and where you want this program to be?
Yeah, this season's not good enough for the standard that we want to set at Nebraska. I mean, we're the University of Nebraska, and back-to-back bowl seasons for the first time in a long time. All that's great, but we have higher expectations for what we want to get done, and so we ended the season on a real down note. Losing the last 2 games and by a score that wasn't representative of the team that went out and played Michigan and played USC and played earlier in the year. So we fell off at the end of the year. I've taken that very personal. That's my responsibility. That falls on me. Our team's had a chance to kind of regroup, and we're really excited. To play the number 15 team in the country, to play a great Big 12 team. It's a real opportunity for us to end the season on a right note and hopefully right that wrong that happened at the end of the year. But with all that being said, Dave, I will say that we definitely feel like the arrow's pointed up. The fact that we are disappointed with 7 wins is to me is progress, and we'll keep attacking.
You used a phrase last week in one of your media availabilities. You said that the program was at the point of respectability, but now needed to take the next step. So how do you take the next step? Like, what have you identified? And I know part of it might be reflected in some of the changes you've made in your staff, but what are the things that need to happen here for Nebraska to get to that point that you're talking about, where you want it to be?
Yeah, I mean, we faced 4 ranked teams this year, and we didn't beat those ranked teams. Or teams that were ranked at some point. We did beat Cincinnati, obviously, who was ranked for much of the year. But, we weren't able to get over the hump against Michigan and against USC and then against Iowa at the end of the year. And so I think a lot of that was reflected in the play on both sides of the line. We have to improve up front. This is a tough physical league, and you have to be able to control the line of scrimmage. And so we are working on that right now. We have good players. My challenge has been for us to coach them better. To get, even me as the head coach, getting my hands dirty, getting down with the D tackles, and really trying to take a step and help these young players grow. And so, we'll have every year we'll have a tough schedule in the Big Ten, and we have to dominate both sides of the line and get back to what Nebraska truly is.
Well, let's talk about the defensive line, because you were talking about it, and your new defensive coordinator, Rob Orich. I mean, the numbers jump off the page just looking at what he did at San Diego State. I'm just going to come clean and say, it's a little off our radar here at the Big Ten Network. I'm not studying it and breaking it down, but I mean, massive improvement this year. Tell me about your path to him and what stands out as you turned on the film, I'm sure, and evaluated how he improved that defense so dramatically.
Yeah, I think one of the things I wanted to do is find people who are playing great defense really in any league. It didn't really matter to me the league. And when I saw Rob, you saw first at Idaho and then at San Diego State, huge jumps in the way that they play defense. And so our first 2 years here, we were a top 10 defense. We played elite level defense. It's fallen off somewhat this year. We're 21st in total defense, but we're last in the country in red zone. And so I watched Rob, and it really was just the way that they played. I mean, I don't need a friend. I don't need I don't need his personality. I want to see how the guys play. And his guys play elite level football. So it's been great having him here. Phil Snow will be our defensive coordinator for the bowl game. There's no better coach in the country. I'm excited about that. But Rob's around every day, and I can already feel what he's going to implement and the things he's going to do for us.
The other line of scrimmage on the offensive side, you made a change there. Donovan Raiola being let go as the offensive line coach. There are obvious questions here about Dylan Raiola's future and whether or not those two are tied together. Obviously we don't know from the outside. What can you tell us about a time frame as to when you might expect or when we can expect some sort of an announcement about Dylan?
I think with all of our players, I mean, that's really up to them, right? The portal opens on the 2nd. I don't know what's going to happen with everybody. I mean, Dylan's an amazing young man, an awesome teammate. He's a great Husker. I would love for him to be our quarterback because he's been our quarterback. And so, those weren't related. At the end of the day, as the head coach, you have to make tough decisions. Donovan's a great offensive line coach. He did a great job here. We ran the football at a high level. But moving forward, we felt like the opportunity to bring Jeep Wade in, who did a great job at Georgia Tech, one of the best run games in the country, elite pass protection. We felt like it was important to make that change and bring in Jeep. He's an accomplished coach. And then we were able to back that up with bringing in Lonnie Teasley, really one of the best tackles coaches and one of the best recruiters in the country. I worked with him many years ago. So there's nothing related to anything else other than just as the head coach, I have to make really tough decisions. It's a part of the job I hate. Yeah. But I have to put what I think are the people in here that are going to give us the best chance to win, and we think we've done that.
Tell me about your quarterback heading into the bowl, TJ Lateef, who's banged up here at the end of the year. Should we expect him to play in the bowl game?
Yeah, TJ will play. When you put on TJ's game tape against UCLA, you put on his game tape against Penn State, the game got away from us, but certainly not because of him. And he was all over the field. He's making people miss. He was making big plays, making big throws. He's courageous. He's tough. He's an excellent player. He's a Big Ten starting quarterback, and we're fired up to have him. And so I'm excited to see him play in the bowl game. Pulled his hamstring against Iowa, really limited what he could do in that ball game. He stayed in the game, which, for him and his development, you watch these guys play on Sundays, and he'll be an NFL quarterback, I think, someday. And these guys on Sundays, they're under constant duress. You have to learn how to play when you don't feel 100%. I think all of his teammates left the game against Iowa knowing that he left it all on the field. And so to have one more game for him to get healthy, come back, play at a high level, I think it's gonna be really good for our program.
Hey, Coach, I know you have really gotten into all of the Husker athletics. It's a big part of what you do. Obviously, volleyball was a really tough loss last night, but how about Husker basketball, men and women? What has stood out as you've watched those two teams?
Well, I will say this first, if I may. Our women's volleyball team is the pride is the pride of this place. Yeah. We love them, and heartbreaking last night. But what they did in that 4th set to come back and fight and battle. I know a couple of the girls were sick. But they're the best of the best. I'm so proud of them, and I think you see that reflected in basketball right now. I was able to go to the Creighton game a week or so ago, the Illinois game this past weekend. I mean, they've got play with guts. They're gritty. They're tough, but they're also great players. And then our women's team doing the same exact thing. And so there's a great era of athletics going on right now at the University of Nebraska. And Troy Dannon's running an unbelievable athletic department here. And we want to do our part on the 31st to keep up with our winter sports. We're doing things at a really high level.
Well, Matt, appreciate it. I look forward to watching the bowl game. It's been fun to watch this team here steadily improve over the last few years, and appreciate your time and look forward to seeing what next year holds as well.
Right, thank you.
That is Matt Rhule. A Big Ten bowl season actually began Saturday night. Washington got a career high, tying 4 TD passes from Damon Williams, took down Boise State 38-10. Denzel Boston, 126 receiving yards. Washington really dominated both sides of the ball. They picked off 5 passes. Huskies making a really nice jump year 2 under Jed Fish, going from 6 wins to 9. We take a look back on the year that was. Williams leading the Big Ten in total yards at this point. He may end up getting passed after bowl season, but still a spectacular year for him. Ryan Walters really improved the defense his first year as DC. Washington giving up fewer than 19 points per game. We are talking basketball next with Rayfeld Davis. From Wolverine dominance to late game heroics, the Bucks and the aforementioned Huskers put an eventful weekend into perspective. This is Big Ten Today. Action-packed basketball weekend. The big board showing us all the Saturday and Sunday results. That includes 3 conference games. They were all played Saturday. Nebraska, that dramatic win over Illinois that we were referring to. Michigan State held off the Nittany Lions. Michigan rode a big second half to get a win as well. Purdue cruising past Marquette in non-conference action, while Ohio State topped West Virginia in double overtime. Rayfeld Davis is here. Let's talk about Michigan first against Maryland. Biggest story so far, I'd say, in the Big Ten. I mean, one of the best teams, if not the best team in the country. I think what's amazing, and we were talking about this on Saturday, they didn't really play great. I mean, particularly in the first half, like their defense was terrible. Nowhere to be found.
Yep.
And yet you end up winning by 18 points. It just speaks to how great they are.
Yeah, it speaks to just how great they are, and it speaks to how many ways they can beat you, because they can have a night where they struggle on both ends of the floor, and then they end up scoring 100 points and shoot 60% from the field because they have so many stars. I think Saturday was all about the star in Yaxel Lindenberg, because everyone was struggling. No one could make a shot. They could not defend Maryland at any rate, and then Yaxel just takes over this basketball game in the second half. 16 of his 29 points coming after the break. Scored the first 10 points of the second half. Coaches talk so much about how we have to start halves right. We have to get off to a good start. Well, Yaxel did just that. He put the team on his back. And then what I'm a big Yaxel fan. Yaxel may be my favorite player in college basketball outside of Trey Kaufman-Renn, because what he did on the defensive end against Maryland was special, because David Diggy Coit was balling. He put up 30. And on that last 3 that he made, he was talking a lot of trash. They were into the game. Yaxel turns. He looks at Diggy. He looks at his team and say, I got him. I got the smallest player on the floor. Yaxel Lindenberg is 6'9", 230 pounds. And he said, I got the small dude. I got him. And then proceeded to face guard him. Didn't let him get a shot off. That's what you need from your best player. You need the offensive ability. That was awesome. But what he did defensively, it just bled into the rest of the team, and Michigan got going.
It's pretty amazing how loaded this team is. I mean, Lindenberg is just...
Oh, my goodness.
It's crazy. I keep thinking, what did he look like in the American Conference? Right?
Crazy.
Nothing against the American, right? I mean, there's been some really good teams
Look
there.
like the Monstars.
I mean, he's just physically so crazy talented. So over 100 points 5 times in 10 games. Last time they were over 100 5 times in 10 games was 88-89 when they won the national championship. Again, not saying, just saying. They're really something. I hope Pharrell Payne is okay. I mean, this is the second time he's had to be helped off the floor. Maryland showed us some really good things in that first half.
Maryland showed us some fight, and that's what you want to see from Maryland. I mean, David Coit, it was a guy that scored over 20 points a game a couple seasons ago at Northern Illinois. It didn't go his way at Kansas a season ago, but this season he could flat out put the ball in the basket. Pharrell Payne, it was good to see him put some weight on his leg walking out of the gym, going back to the locker room, came back out and joined them on the bench, so that was good to see. Elijah Saunders got going. This is the Maryland team that we expected to see. They're going to fight you. They're going to scrape you. They're going to get up on the offensive glass. They out-rebounded Michigan. You think about that front line that Michigan has. For Maryland to come away with 18 second chance points, that speaks volumes. But what I will say, they were in that game. They could have won that game. But Solo Washington, you cannot pick up that flagrant foul, that technical foul, get ejected, and then Michigan goes on an 8-0 run. You have to be emotionally tame. Coach Painter would always tell us, don't get emotionally drunk. It's going to be a play. You can go one way or the other, but you have to be even killed. That, not putting it all on Solo, but that one play, that sparked Michigan. You can't have that.
It was a big turning point, no question about it. We were talking a little bit about Nebraska with Matt Rhule. I want to ask you about the Huskers. I mean, to me, you know, it's kind of what we're talking about with Indiana football. Like, it's gone from a great story to, hey, they're really a great team. And I just think they have so many different players who can beat you. And we saw evidence of that. I mean, you know, Jamarcus Lawrence ends up hitting the game-winning shot. We've seen Rink Mass play really well. Sam Hoiberg, I thought, was incredible. Even Brad Underwood was saying after the game, he thought Hoiberg in a lot of ways controlled the game. they're really legitimately good. I mean, to go on the road and beat that Illinois team, that's a massive accomplishment.
And Dave, you mentioned all those names. You didn't even mention Price Sanford.
Price
Sanford
who
goes
had
for
like
30.
Yeah, almost had 30. Almost had a career high in the first half. Yeah.
It speaks to how good they are because I can remember coming into the Big Ten Network my first season. You had Alonzo Verge, you had the McGowan's boys, and all that good stuff. Those guys almost ran Coach out of Nebraska, and they almost got on fire. And I loved how Coach went back to his drawing board and said, if I'm going to get fired, I'm going to get fired doing it my way. And he went out and got guys that fit his system, guys that wanted to play for the front of the jersey, not the back of the jersey. And Price Sanford falls right into that category. I talked a little bit to Peyton, his older brother, after the game because I have to know what their father did. Their father had to have them on some type of eating regimen, a shooting regimen, because Price was big time. 26 points in that first half, made 6 threes. There was nothing Illinois could do with him. But when he slowed down in the second half, speaking to your point, it was Rink Mass that picked up this pace. Then Garcia coming in off the bench. I mean, Nebraska just dominated Illinois' front court. And I love this team because Sam Hoiberg, like you mentioned, only 7.6 assists, but 0 turnovers. He was great on the defensive end. He's a ball mover. He's a spacer. He makes the right play every single time. This Nebraska team, they're cooking with gas right now.
Hoiberg had a couple big offensive rebounds and a possession late in the game. You were talking about the front court, and the front court was great. It also exposed Illinois' front court didn't play well at all, really. I mean, Thomas Slavicevic had the one shot. It was the only shot he made. It was the one to tie up the game there late. Mirkovic was kind of missing in action a little bit. I mean, Keaton Wagler's been a great revelation for them, but are you concerned with the way Illinois' front court played?
Oh, yeah, I said it this weekend. Illinois, you look at them on a spreadsheet, you look at their roster, how they're constructed, a really big team. They got 2 7-footers. David Mirkovic is 6'9", 6'10". They have all of that size, but at times you look out there and you question how physically tough they are. They don't hit as good as they could. They're not as dominant on the glass as you would think a Brad Underwood team with this size could be because when shots aren't going in, and they did go in. I mean, Andre Stojakovic was big time. Keegan Wagler, he did his job, 19 and 10. But at times throughout a basketball game, you got to throw that thing in the post, and you got to get 2 or you got to get to the free throw line. And you have to have some resistance on a defensive end because Rink Mass, he had his way. And Garcia in that second half, 8 to 10 points, hasn't had that type of half all season. I mean, they were dominant on that offensive glass, in the lane. Illinois has got to answer the bell when it comes to having that physicality and that toughness.
I think Brad will get their attention.
I think so.
In practice, he has a way of getting people's attention.
Yeah, because Big Z got a dunk. He dunked on Nebraska. He's talking trash. He gets that technical
and he got
foul.
a tee. It's the same thing you're talking about.
Exactly. Then next you know, Nebraska goes on a 7-0 run, and that wins them the game. You can't be fake tough. Sometimes you look out there and you see the Illinois, you see all that rah-rah, Big Z is screaming, they're into it. It's fake toughness. Real toughness is getting the rebound, taking the charge, getting the defensive stop. It's not dunking on a 5'7" dude and screaming in his face. I think that one, you never want to put it on one guy, one play. But that one play, it sparked that run, and Nebraska never looked back.
Same thing, big turning point.
Yep.
Big turning point play. Although, truthfully, Nebraska led for almost the entire game. I think Illinois led for 16 seconds. But it was a moment where you really felt like, Nebraska continued to kind of assert itself and continue with that momentum. I want to talk about Michigan State. They got everything they could handle from Penn State, and yet, kind of same thing we're talking about with Nebraska. It's different guys coming through, and in this case, Divine Ogochukwu. I mean, 5 of 5 from 3. Guy has a career high. I look at Michigan State, and I think when we talked about kind of last year was a great season. You ended up winning the Big Ten by 3 games, but you did it despite not being able to shoot from the outside. And it just feels like in this day and age, you have to be able to hit threes. Feels like they have a few more options to do that this year. And then, part of it is the Jackson Kohler, and part of it is you're getting it from your bigs, too.
Yeah, Coach Painter would always tell us in the locker room when I was at Purdue, you look around this locker room after every game, someone different is going to win us a game, whether it's going to be at home or on the road. And my guy Divine did just that. He was big time. And it was on both ends of the court because, he was special offensively, but played that big time Tom Izzo toughness on the defensive end, which you need in these grind-out wins because I played at Penn State on an 11 a.m. tip, and there's no energy in the gym. You got to create your energy. Penn State makes some shots, and now it's a game. So Michigan State, their defense was there. But when you have a guy, Divine, he looked like he was Travis Trice, Brent Forbes coming off all those screens, knocking down big shots. He was big, but at the end of the day, if I'm Michigan State, you grinded that win out. And a road win is a road win in this conference, no matter how you get it. But you can't have 17 turnovers on the road in the Big Ten. They won that one.
I mean, Penn State does it. This is part of who they are, right?
That's true.
But I hear you. No, I mean, that nearly won Penn State the game.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you have to know that that's who they are. I will say this about Penn State. You know, there's no power conference team that's more reliant on freshmen than Penn State is right now. And we know, like, you know, in this era of get old and stay old, saying, hey, we're going to lean on freshmen, it's a tough way to win in the immediate term. But you can see it starting to take shape. You can see, to me, kind of it taking form, and that speaks to how good a coach Mike Rhoades is. I thought we saw evidence of, hey, this could be, you know, certainly they were a tough out here on a Saturday in December, but as the year goes on, could be an even tougher out. Purdue, not a great Marquette team, I think, to say the least this year. It's been a little strange to watch that, but the Boilers have responded in the way they have needed to here over these last 2 games.
Yeah, they responded in the way I wanted to see them respond, because obviously I'm the coach, right? But what I've seen has been on the defensive end, because it's not the greatest Marquette team, like you said, but holding Marquette to 59 points and under 40% from the field, that's the Purdue standard on the defensive end. You go into that locker room, you talk to Coach Painter, they have to be better on the defensive end. The last 2 games, well, the last 3 halves, they weren't great in that first half against Minnesota. They picked it up in the second half, but they were great in this one. On the detail, it's about being in the right place. Coach always talks about starting right, being right, and not getting behind the play. There's been too many times this season where Purdue is just simply whipped off the bounce, and there's no help for getting beat off the bounce into the lane. So I think where Purdue is defensively is big time. Chase Ross really put him in the bottle. But Oscar Clough, this is the Oscar Clough that we expected to have in West Lafayette. 22 and 11, 9 from 9 from the field. He's got to be that guy they can drop it off to in that post and give them something. Their TKR is going to see a double every night. You saw how Iowa State guarded Braden Smith on their ball screen action. They have to have that pressure release in Oscar Clough, someone that can give them a basket when they go to him down low.
Well, they really become a pick-your-poison team at that point. You know, I mean, how are you going to deal with Clough and TKR and Braden Smith, and when Fletch is shooting the ball like he can? I mean, they got a lot of guys who can beat you. There's a reason they were the #1 team in the country. Right? That doesn't happen by mistake. Finally, Ohio State, they figured it out against West Virginia. I think it's one of those games where you look at it and say, it's a 50-minute game. They led for less than 6 minutes, right? But it's the right. You got to lead at the right time. They led at the right time. They got a guy in Bruce Thornton who can bail them out and get them a hoop when they needed it down the stretch. I think it's one of those games you look back on and you say, you had to win this game, and they figured out a way to win.
And you think back a season ago, I don't think they would have won this game because Bruce Thornton was great. He had 21, 12 points in the overtime. He won them this game. I mean, Bruce Thornton, in honor of, felt like they were playing one-on-one at some point in the game, and Bruce ended up getting the final shot to win the game for Ohio State. But it's not just about Bruce this season. John Mobley was great. Devin Royal, he gave them something. But a season ago, their interior presence was non-existent. And I thought Christoph Tilley was big time. He was a presence defensively. He was big on the glass. You drop it off to him, he could finish. But the development and the growth of freshman Amiri Bynum was crazy because he grew up right in front of our eyes in that West Virginia game. I've been watching Bynum a long time, since he was a sophomore in high school calling those games. His physical development over the last 3 years, even throughout this season, has been special. He gave him 17 points, 8 rebounds off the bench, 15 points in the second half. They did not have that type of development or type of interior presence a season ago. So as Amari gets better, as he grows throughout the season, as Christoph gets more comfortable, we know what we get with Bruce Thornton inside. This Ohio State team, I think they build off that West Virginia win, and I think this team could go dance and get Bruce to his first tournament that he's ever played in.
Yeah, whether you think about the last 2 Saturdays, right, they had 62 points in the paint against Northwestern. They had 48 points in paint. Again, a 50-minute game, so I mean it distorts it a little bit. But it speaks to last year, they just did not have any kind of a post presence. Going into the weekend, they were in the top 5 in the nation in 2-point field goal percentage. I haven't looked at the updated numbers, but again, it speaks to you identify a weakness and you address it, and they've certainly done that. So one of Saturday's marquee non-conference clashes pitted 25th-ranked UCLA, number 8 Gonzaga in Seattle. Bruins certainly had their moments. They led it well into the second half, but Zags took over down the stretch, pulling away for a 10-point win, their 5th in the last 6 meetings with the Bruins. There was a lot to like in this game. I got to watch it here in the wee hours of Saturday morning. I thought Tyler Bilodeau was fantastic. But ultimately, to me, from where I sit, interior defense just wasn't there.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was going to say as well. Gonzaga just took advantage of UCLA inside. Graham Ike looked like a man amongst the boys. And when you think about a Mick Cronin coach team, you think of toughness, you think of defense, you think of protecting the lane, keeping the ball outside of it. And this team has not done that yet this season. And it has to be frustrating for coach because you look at Eric Daly and Tyler Bilodeau, two mainstays from last season's program. They should know the deal. They should understand the scouting report. They should understand where they should be on the floor, and they should be able to get Xavier Booker up to speed. The front court defense was not there. The guard play on the offense was not there, and ultimately you lose that game because Gonzaga getting to the free throw line and shooting 32 free throws. That's never what Mick Cronin wants to get done on the defensive end.
Yeah, it did. Again, it just felt like, you mentioned Xavier Booker, it felt like he was a little overmatched in there for whatever reason defensively.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a little bit of a missed opportunity. You kind of look at, hey, where were their chances to get marquee wins in the non-conference? This really was one of them. I don't think there's anything necessarily that's going to resonate. They're still a really good team, but they'll have to build that resume mostly in conference play here. Indiana, a team that is very reliant on the three. You go 4 of 24 from three. It's hard to win. Again, I felt like when we were talking about this, with Jordan and Mike on Saturday, it felt like Kentucky needed this game, right? I mean, it was desperation time for them because they lost every high major game. You're at Rupp Arena. It's a tough place to win. But again, if you shoot it as poorly as they did and then turn it over as frequently as they do, that's a bad combination.
Yeah, I look at Indiana, and we all know they want to shoot a bunch of threes. They want to get up and down. But my question is, what do you do when they're not going in? Because they weren't going in, and Tucker DeVries was really struggling. 1 for 9 from the three-point line. He's got to find ways to get to the free throw line. He's got to find ways to get in the lane and make plays. Lamar Wilkerson the same, because when they're hot, they're going. They're one of the best duos in college basketball when shots are going in. But for Indiana as a team, who else can you go to? I look at their front court, and you look at Sam Alexis, you look at Reed Bailey. They've just got to be better. They can't go on the road in big-time environments and give you 6 points and 6 rebounds combined. They have to produce at least a double-double every night out. They have to get, for you look at those bigs, at least 20 and 10. That should not be asking too much for Indiana's front court. But if you're going to depend on the threes, get dominated in the post, that's not a great recipe for success, in my opinion.
No, that's the challenge. I think, look, the way the game is played in this era now is it's going to be about, for many of these teams, it's going to be about three-pointers. And we have teams in the league where 50% of their field goal attempts are three-pointers. But it's just, again, you go 4 of 24. Like, I don't know a situation where Indiana, as it's constructed, can win a game at 4 of 24.
I agree.
From three. But I guess the plan is don't go 4 of 24.
Don't go 4 of 24.
It wasn't on the grease board, I'm thinking. Go 4 of 24. Let's talk about USC. They survived Washington State. They went 1 of 13 from three and figured out a way to win the game. Part of it maybe Washington State isn't nearly as good as Kentucky is at Rupp Arena. But still, I mean, 10-1 is 10-1. Like, USC's playing well, man.
Yeah, USC is playing really well, and this is without Rodney Rice. Rodney Rice is a guy that averages 20 points a game. There's their point guard. He's their leader. You look back to that Washington game, they win that game if Rodney Rice is on the floor because your point guard is who brings it home for you. So to go out there, and I know Washington State isn't the greatest team, but to find a way to grind out a win when you only make 1 3-pointer in today's age is big time because I have to look at a guy like Jacob Coffey and give him all the credit because we talk about Indiana. When shots don't go in for the Hoosiers, they struggle. But when shots didn't go in for the Trojans, you dump that thing down to Jacob Coffey and give me a basket, big fella. That was his best performance last night because they needed him. They had to go down low. Chad Baker-Mazar, he ends with 19, but he was 0 for 5 from the three-point line, didn't have it going. He made his free throws, but they have to keep developing that interior presence because this USC team sitting at 10-1 right now, they could be a team to reckon with in the Big Ten. You get Rodney Rice back, we know what he could bring, and then mid-January, end of January, you get Elijah Arenas, one of the better freshmen in the college basketball who hasn't played a game yet this season. this USC team is the real deal. I love what coaches put together.
They'll be on the Big Ten Network on Wednesday, as will Oregon. Quick thought on the Ducks. Again, not the highest level of competition against Cal Davis, but this was a game they needed.
Yes. And they needed to get Jackson Shellstat going. Jackson Shellstat has not been the Jackson that we've known this season. To see Jackson have some shots go in the basket, Simpkins made some shots. KJ Evans is starting to turn into the player that we thought he would be coming out of high school. You get Nate Biddle healthy, Oregon's going to be right back where we assumed they would be.
Bench produced, and they shot the ball well, which are things that hadn't happened. Great stuff from Rafael. Thanks to all who joined the show. We'll see you next time on